Well, the 94th edition of the Blue Gold Game, guys. I'm Tim Priester with John Brice and Drew Mentock. This one was a lot of fun. There's a lot of good football players. I think, we're going to probably talk about this a whole bunch on overtime and writing about it, but the quarterbacks competed very well. The offense really picked up the pace. I thought there were a lot of defensive players that individually really stood out. I was thoroughly entertained today.
Yeah, and pretty close to a full, normal, so to speak, Notre Dame offensive line. We saw Billy Schrouth out there. We saw some other new additions out there. Emil Wagner worked extensively at right tackle. Anthony Knapp back at left tackle. So a very compelling day for Notre Dame. I'm sure we'll talk plenty on the quarterbacks and a number of other elements. C.J. Carr, through the meat of today's Blue Gold game, was 10 of 12 for a $124 with a touchdown. Then he later had an interception, but obviously a lot to dissect and a lot to be really impressed by on C.J. Carr. And then Luke Talich among a number of people standing out defensively. Certainly KVA flashed as well. But you're right, Tim, just the roster enhancement that's gone on the last 5 years or so, really, since Marcus Freeman first arrived in 21 and started upgrading the defense is very, very transparent.
Yeah, Drew, we saw the offensive line go out there, also joined by Charles Jagusa and Sullivan Absher at center, which we've seen him dabble there. But boy, you put that group on the field, and it looks a whole lot different. And again, there were times where the defense got the best of them too, and the backup offensive line, but the ability to protect the quarterbacks, there were just 2 sacks, and of course there's a quick whistle for the sacks on a day like today. I thought it was really impressive.
Yeah, I agree, and it was really refreshing after last Saturday when they didn't have some of those starters back in the offensive line, just to see how much that changed what we saw for the first team, but also the depth and how that translated down, especially since the second team was going against the second team and stuff like that. I thought it was much more evenly matched for the offense, and we got to see them make more plays than we had in the past because of it. And I agree. I mean, C.J. Carr, up until that interception, was poised. I think something that really stood out to me, and I think I said this to you, Tim, is that he makes the easy throws look easy, which isn't something we've always seen from Notre Dame quarterbacks in the past. Sometimes those short throws kind of move into the left or right. They kind of throw it at the ankles, or they don't hit the receiver in stride, and then he can't make a play. And almost every single one of Carr's throws, the receiver was able to get upfield, or even Eli Raridan made a play just because he was hit in the right spot and able to keep his momentum.
It seems like in the past, and whatever quarterback, like you're kind of holding your breath as they have to make that touch throw, but you're absolutely right. I mean, C.J. Carr delivers it. It allows the whether it's a tight end. He threw 2 absolute dimes to Bauman and Larson, and those were there was an extremely small window there to fit those passes in.
Yeah, the precision and the touch on those 2 passes are going to be in everyone's highlights. Early one to Bauman that I think picked up 23 yards, maybe even a little more real estate than that with Larson. One of the things that most impressed me today about C.J. Carr was how quickly he got rid of the ball, because we should point out Chris Ash did not hold back. We saw blitzes today, and we saw a lot of middle blitzes. There was a Drake Bowen middle blitz. I think I saw Madden Faramo on one. Certainly I saw Bodie Cahoon coming straight up the gut, untouched on a play that I think might have been the one C.J. Carr hit Elijah Burris for the short touchdown. But C.J. Carr avoided trouble when he was pressured, but he did a great job of releasing the ball so quickly that the pressure never remotely got home on him.
Neither Kenny Minchey nor Steve Angeli should be undersold here either. I mean, you look at Minchey's numbers, 6 for 14, 106 yards. I don't think that does justice at all to what he showed at times. Great mobility, gets to the corner. His read option fakes, the keepers, I was fooled 3 times. He did a spectacular job, and then he did a pretty nice little backflip in the end zone that Tom the intern got multiple shots of.
I mean, I think we, again, going back to earlier in the spring when they kind of compared his athleticism to Riley Leonard a little bit, but I think we saw that today where he kind of just runs away from people. He doesn't look like he's moving that fast. We saw a lot of that today, and I agree. His numbers are a little overshadowed early on. I think he made some really nice deep balls that were either just a little overthrown, which is what you want them to be. You don't want them to be underthrown, or the defense just made a nice play. So I think he really pushed the ball down the field, and that's what we want to see from an improvement on from last year's offense. And that didn't quite work out, but at least this is still a practice, and he's supposed to be working on doing those type of things.
Steve Angeli, his numbers were 8 for 11, 108 yards. He threw the touchdown pass. We need to give credit to the receivers here. His touchdown pass was to Scrap Richardson. Carr threw touchdown passes to Elijah Burris and Xavier Southall, a walk-on receiver who's done some good things. And then, of course, we mentioned the touchdown run by Minchie. We didn't give the score. I think it was 76-31 in favor of the offense. Marcus Freeman said after the game that they have to maybe reconsider how they give the points out because it was a little bit one-sided. The defense definitely played better than that. But the offense picked up the pace, and all the quarterbacks did some really, really good things.
Yeah, when your defense has a goal line stand like that, maybe that's 10 points. I don't know. Especially the two tackles that Luke Talich
inside
made
the wall,
back to back.
Right.
I mean, he absolutely hammered the ball carrier. I think Kedron Young on one of those and came through. And other than Minchie's flip, I would contend that the Luke Talich hit on Kedron Young at the goal line might have been one of the loudest cheers of the day. Impressive there. Jadarian Price, we haven't mentioned it. We knew we wouldn't see Jeremiah Love today. We didn't see Jeremiah Love today. Jadarian Price showed good bursts, and I thought Kedron Young ran the ball incredibly hard. But, yeah, the defense, again, I'm going to go with it. They need the football version of the Stableford modified scoring system.
Talich led all defenders with 9 tackles. And Drew, you and I were talking about throughout. Sean Sevillano showed at nose tackle. Ben Minnick had an interception and a couple of tackles. Carson Hobbs was all over the place for that defense.
Yeah, I think Carson Hobbs really stood out. I mean, we saw how confident he is in interviews earlier in the year, and other than I think he gave up one play kind of earlier on to Jaden Greathouse, who obviously we know is a pretty talented player. After that, he was getting his hands on everything. He had another hit on Kedron Young where he kind of decleated him, and I looked it up. He's, at least based on Notre Dame's roster, he is 47 pounds lighter than Kedron Young and still had no problem making that form tackle and getting under him.
Yeah, I think, John, Mike Denbrock, really deserves a lot of credit. I mean, when you think about what we saw last week, and I realize that was an incomplete snapshot because those offensive linemen weren't in, but this was a day where, and I guess, even Marcus Freeman said, I mean, he was pleased with the entire scrimmage because both sides of the ball played really well. Maybe they're not surprised by what the offense did today. We were, based upon what we saw last week. But I think give Mike Denbrock a lot of credit. Those quarterbacks are playing well. Obviously they're not dipping into everything they're going to do offensively, but it was an impressive day ultimately for the offense.
Yeah, very few penalties on either side of the ball, either side of the line of scrimmage today. Quarterbacks overall operated it well. Blake Hebert, as you would expect, had a little bit of issues getting through the plays and a couple of timeouts or a delay of game here and there. But overall, a very clean operation on both sides of the ball, especially for a defense going out like that for the first time under Chris Ash and for an offense with a bunch of basically brand new quarterbacks. I was impressed with that. That's a great point by you, TP. And I would note that the Notre Dame varied tempo a little bit at times. I mean, there was an early time, maybe Kenny Minchie's first possession, where they were quick to the line of scrimmage and snapped the ball with 20-plus seconds left, maybe 21, 22 seconds left, moving with some tempo, with some pace, slowed it down when they needed to. And then we didn't see a ton of different wrinkles from the offense, but we saw a bunch of people get touches, a bunch of guys carry the ball, catch the ball, and get an opportunity to shine.
Drew, anybody else you want to mention? I think we're probably walking all over much of our overtime coming up, but Preston Zinner was impressive. Cole Mullins with 5 tackles. Elijah Hughes, the USC transfer, with 5 tackles. A lot of good players out there today.
I think what really stood out to me that maybe we didn't talk about much, I mentioned Eli Raridan had some nice plays after. I think you mentioned earlier this week how much you wanted to see growth from the offensive or the tight end room, and that's what we expect from now to Notre Dame. And I think we saw that Eli Raridan, we saw some other nice plays from tight ends and making plays on the field, but just their ability to get him the ball in space and to make plays is something that could be pretty interesting going forward.
I don't know how many quarterbacks fit the passes into Bauman and Larson.
No,
CJ Carr did it today.
That was special, and we should note Marcus Freeman making it clear he's in no hurry to name a starting quarterback, but acknowledging that it's hard to go into the fall with the 3-man competition and some difficult conversations coming up over the next 10 to 12 days for Marcus Freeman and the Notre Dame Brain Trust.
Just to remind everybody, this was actually practice 12. Notre Dame has 3 more. It'll give them a chance to really go over the film of the Blue Gold game and correct and improve and then we'll have an opportunity to sit down with Marcus Freeman in about, 10, 11 days, something like that after they wrap things up. So a pretty exciting day for a blue gold game that we weren't anticipating to have quite as many standouts as it did. Tim Priester, John Brice, Drew Mentock. This has been Irish Illustrated's Instant Analysis.